السلام عليكم. Welcome back to another episode of Quran in English. My name is Ahmed, and I am happy to take you on through the fourth section. Yeah, I'm losing the count. Anyway, we're continuing through chapter Al-Isra, chapter 17, which talks about the miraculous travel of the Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem, and then his ascension to heaven, the seven heavens, and back down. Yes. Okay. Before we begin, a few things, but something also slightly different. I have come to the conclusion that I love the Quran. I haven't actually said this, and I don't say this that often, but like as I'm reading these verses for today, I I don't know. I have this immense love for the Quran that is like grown on me. I think it's always been there, but I'm now just being able to verbalize the words, and it is love that I have for the Quran, and it does feel powerful and magical and merciful, and I'm ever so grateful that we have these words, and I'm ever so grateful that we have this miracle before us, and I'm happy to share that with you. But then that comes to what are we doing here on this channel? I'm here on this channel to learn. I'm sharing my education journey as I'm reading through the Quran. I'm sharing with you my thoughts, my understandings. They may not be the accurate understanding. There might be also, the Quran is very complex and it's applying for all times. So I don't think that anyone's ever going to be able to fully understand the Quran. And I'm trying to do my best to understand what I can learn from them and start from the Quran as a basis. I am not looking at Hadith, which is something that is a criticism of this channel that a lot of people have been saying. I'm not saying that I won't look at Hadith. I'm just saying for now I'm focusing on the Quran and learning about it. And I'm doing so while not being a Quranic scholar, nor an Arabic, nor did I study the Arabic language beyond school. So, and also my schooling system. Anyway, let's not get into it. So I did not study the Quran before. In fact, this is my first read through of the Quran. And I did not study the Arabic language beyond school. So I'm really giving it my best understanding, even though I do speak Arabic. I'm just trying to understand. I'm not telling you what you should believe, but I'm telling you what I believe and what I understand. And if you have a different perspective, feel free to drop it in the comments. And I would love to learn from you. I have learned a lot from the people who are viewing this channel. That being said, if you're still interested in what I have to say, then feel free to continue watching this video. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, to read the Quran, we must always begin with أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I'm very excited, and I'd love to share these verses with you. Some very interesting verses. Very cool. And I have a thing that I noticed. There in the previous verse, it was called, it talked about the Mi'raj, the ascension to heavens, being a vision, which was very interesting. And I said it previously in the chapter about it being a vision, that he didn't physically ascend, but I think his spirit ascended. And we are going to talk about it in these verses. So I will reserve my comments to that point, but it was just a very interesting point. There were two things in Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. Al-Isra was the physical transportation of the Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem, and Al-Mi'raj was, I believe, a soulful ascension. I don't know how to describe it yet, but I think like his spirit ascended and he had an experience that was transcendental, not necessarily that he physically traveled up, but we'll get into it in a second. For now, let us jump into the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
ولقد كرمنا بني آدم وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا.
Okay, it says, and we certainly have honored the children of Adam, and we carried them on the land and in the sea, and we blessed them with good things, and we preferred them over many of whom we have created. We've preferred them we've made them with a preference. فضلناهم تفضيلا, which means we have preferred. It's an Arabic way of saying we really preferred them. And what is this verse saying? It's saying that the children of Adam, aka all of us humans interacting and reading and talking, have been honored. on land and in the sea, which I feel like it's just a way of saying everywhere, you know? Because everywhere that we live on this earth is either on land or on sea. Though it's hard to live on the sea, but some people live on ships. Anyway. And we bless them from the good things, at-tayyibat. It says lawful provisions, but I think it just means good things, the goodness, because it's a bit more of a broad term. And we preferred them over many of what we have created. And we also see this in the creation of Adam and Eve, that the angels were all told to bow down before Adam, and then Iblis refused to bow down because he said, you created me from fire, but you created him from mud, so why are you preferring Adam over me? And then there was an exchange about God teaching Adam the names, and then asking the angels, do you know the names? And the angels don't know the names, but Adam knew the names, which was very interesting. And in it lies an understanding of what humans are and why we are the creatures that are roaming the earth, why we have set up the civilizations. We are what some call the apex predator, but we are the thing that is preferred seemingly on the earth. And it, also interesting, وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرًا. We preferred them over many of our of what we have created. It does not say over all that we have created. The indication here is that there are some things that God has created that are preferred over humans, is the understanding that I kind of get. But it doesn't say what those are. It just says that humans are preferred over many. And through the act of the angels bowing down to Adam, you can kind of understand a form of that the humans are preferred over the angels. And that's also kind of why Iblis refused to bow down to Adam. Iblis, for those that don't know this, if this is the first time you're joining this channel, Iblis becomes al-shaytan, the devil. And yeah, the whole point of them bowing down to Adam, the angels, and Iblis bowing down to Adam, because Iblis could be an angel, could not be. I have that question from a long time. Is that there is a form of saying that the humans were preferred over the angels and over the jinn in a way. But that's my best understanding. As I said, here it says many, but it doesn't say all creatures, so there might be some. And I don't know what creatures would be preferred over the children of Adam, aka the humans. Interesting.
يوم ندعو كل أناس بإمامهم فمن أوتي كتابه بيمينه فأولئك يقرؤون كتابهم ولا يظلمون فتيلا.
Okay, so this is saying a few things. Here it says, on the day that we will call all people, and I believe the word is saying by their preacher, but here they're saying the word with their record, here they're saying with the word with their leader, and if you click on the annotation, you see other meanings include the record of deeds, which is what it's saying over here, with their record, but I don't think it's the record of deeds, or their prophet, or their scripture, or not necessarily prophet, but their preacher. So an imam in Muslim culture is kind of like the leader of the religion and who guides the people through religion. So preacher, not prophet. I wouldn't say prophet is the right word. A prophet can be a preacher, for example. So it's not to say that prophet is the wrong word. It's just I think that it's more accurate to say preacher, bi imamihim, because imam is, here they're saying leader, which kind of close to it. Yeah, a religious leader is an imam. But then it says something interesting. It says, then whoever is given their record, their book, in their right hand, then those will read their books, their records, and they will not be wronged. Not even the hair on the date seed, they will not be wronged at all. So what is this book that is referring to? In the previous verses and in other verses of the Quran, we have heard that when you die and you come to Judgment Day, It seems that there is a record that you read, a record of your life. And I think this is referring to the same thing. And the next verse also talks about the opposite. And it also says in his right hand, which is or in their right hand. Because, he is being used as the individual gender, not the male genders only. And I feel like that's what this is talking about, because on Judgment Day, you will read your book. And it is about what if you're being wronged, what if you're being right. And you'd think that the opposite of this is that given your record on your right hand is giving your record on your left hand. It would be interesting. But the opposite that is going to give us is not the left hand, which is ironic. And I'm trying to see how this first set of words ties into it. The day that we call all people. So that's why they've added the word record here, or they've added the meaning of the word bi'imamihim as record, because then it fits into the whole picture, rather than if we call all people with their leader, because it feels like these first 5 words talk about, if it's imamihim in the form of a religious leader, then it's talking about something different. And the Quran does this. Sometimes within verses it talks about a different topic in the beginning and then a different topic in the second half. So it could be, and there could be a connection. There is another verse in the Quran that talks about there being a witness called from every people. And every people will have a witness that comes forward and says, did we receive the message? Did we not receive the message? So maybe this is akin to that. But primarily the verse is focusing on who's ever given the record in the right hand, as in the right way, then they will read their book and they won't be wronged. And on the opposite end of this, we get the next verse.
ومن كان في هذه أعمى فهو في الآخرة أعمى وأضل سبيلا.
Okay. I first read this verse and I understood something different than what I understand now. It said, and whoever is in this. Now they've added the word this world, but I think it means in this statement, in this verse. That's how I understood it just now. And whoever is in this blind, then he is in the hereafter blind and led more astray from the path. Now when I first read this verse, I thought, does that mean someone who doesn't believe and doesn't see the truth and doesn't see justice and doesn't get to the right answer in this life, will they be blind in the afterlife? And I had this image of like people being in hell and not understanding why they're in hell. But I don't think that's accurate, because a lot of the times the Quran does talk about the disbelievers knowing on Judgment Day, they're like, oh yeah, we know we messed up, and then the blame starts throwing, it's his fault, but they, at the very least, they always understand. So I think this is more talking about whoever was in this blind, whoever was blind about the fact that our records are being kept, then they will be in the hereafter blind and led more astray from the path. It made more sense when they were blind in this world. But the comparison does is that whoever's given their hand in the right hand, the book in the right hand, versus those who are blind. And those who are blind in the afterlife and led more astray. Led more astray is in this world, and in the afterlife they will be blind as well. Interesting. Now I'm subscribers. Thank you, Hayati Azli. I appreciate you. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Welcome. I don't know if you caught my disclaimer in the beginning, but I'm sharing my education journey about the Quran. I'm trying to learn and share what I'm learning with everyone. So, if you have a different perspective, feel free to share it, but I'm going to try and understand it as best as I can. Yeah. And whoever is in this, see, they've added the word this world, and whoever is blind to the truth, but whoever is blind in this is the exact, in this is the direct word. And it's interesting to think of them as blind. Yeah, and I guess the concept is, I was thinking of them being blind in the afterlife. It's not talking about literal blindness, because whoever is blind to this is an explanation talking about whoever is blind, as in whoever doesn't see that that we are all being judged and that we are all going to have our own records held against us, then they will also not see in the hereafter why they had it to believe to begin with. I think that's what it's telling us. It's a metaphorical blindness. It's not a literal blindness, as far as I understand it. And they are strayed from the path.
وَإِن كَادُوا لَيَفْتِنُونَكَ عَنِ الَّذِي أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ لِتَفْتَرِيَ عَلَيْنَا غَيْرَهُ وَإِذًا لَاتَّخَذُوكَ خَلِيلًا.
And then here we talk about how they tested. And again, whenever it's directly speaking, we understand it to be directly speaking to the Prophet. Peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But again, with the caveat that this might be talking about more than just that specific moment, because the Quran is forever. And indeed, they were about to tempt you away about that which we have revealed to you, so that you invent about us other than it. And if you do, then they would take you as a friend. And this is also why I love the Quran, and this is why I love and I appreciate it, is because, I find sometimes learning about the Quran and learning about what is being revealed, and then you have conversations with people and you have different perspectives and different opinions, and sometimes you kind of get lost about what is right, what is real, what is not, what is true, what is not. And like, for instance, I believe in the Quran 100%, and I'm sure the Prophet Muhammad believed in the Quran 100% because it was absolutely miraculous in coming to him. And even the Quran is saying, and they were about to tempt you away from that which we have revealed. There is an exemption of what's coming. Obviously, they didn't. But the fact that they were about to means that they do have an influence upon even well, not exactly to have an influence, but they're attempting to have an influence, and it would have happened had it not been for God. And we'll see in the next verse that he is secured in his faith. But it's definitely something that I can relate to. I find myself having to refer to the Quran often when it comes to what do I know exactly, and everything else is subject to conversation, to debate, to what is this, what is that, is this right, is this wrong, and they say they would take you as a friend if you were to kind of invent something that isn't what it is in the Quran, and that it would have happened unless
ولولا أن ثبتناك لقد كدت تركن إليهم شيئا قليلا.
Are we going to have this issue now? Or are we? Okay. No, it's fine. And if it had not been that we have secured you, not strengthened you, made you steadfast, thabatnak is secured you. And if it had not been that we had secured you, then surely you would have inclined towards them in something that is a little. Which is saying a lot in this verse. What is it saying? It is saying that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was secured by God or by the angels, because it uses the royal we. And if he had not been secured, then even he could have been tempted in a way. Which then, if it looks about you and me as believers. And this is also why prayer is so important, and prayer and constant belief and constant asking God for guidance and constantly keeping your mind open to God and asking for God and asking for God's mercy is important, because all of us are vulnerable. And all of us are vulnerable to the devil, all of us are vulnerable to each other, and there's so many complex things that go into being a human being. You have friends, you have family, you have people that you respect, you have people that you want to impress, and we constantly need to pray and constantly need to keep ourselves open to being guided to the right path, because it's very easy to get lost and it's very easy to get confused, which ties me back into why I love the Quran. The Quran is fixed. Human understanding is ever changing. Human belief is ever changing, but the Quran is very constant. And reading it is very powerful, and it kind of helps secure you. And that's a form of how we can get secured, is through the recitation of the Quran. And I'm very happy that I'm reading it daily, which brings me a lot of joy. But yeah.
إذا لأذقناك ضعف الحياة وضعف الممات ثم لا تجد لك علينا نصيرا.
Okay, this is an interesting expression that I don't fully understand. If then we made you taste double the life and double the death, then you would not have found for you and against us any helper. So here they've added the word punishment, which is not referenced in this verse. If we made you taste double the punishment both in this life and after death, you would not have found against us any helper. It just says double the life and double the death. It does not say punishment. Though if you add the word punishment, it kind of makes you understand you wouldn't be able to be protected against the punishment. But I don't think that's what this verse is saying. إِذَنْ لَأَذَقْنَاكَ ضَعْفَ الْحَيَاةِ وَضَعْفَ الْمَمَاتِ. If then we had made you taste double the life and double the death, then you wouldn't find against us any helper. How do you taste double death? How do you taste double life? When I thought about double life the first time about reading this, is that double the temptation of life, double the all the benefits and things that you have in life. If you double them, then is it more distracting? Is it more difficult to stay on the path? I don't know. I don't fully understand this. I mean, I see the description of punishment, and I believe that this is, again, a lot of these understandings come from hadith, and we're not looking at hadith at this point in the journey of the study of the Quran. So I can understand that that's what scholars would have said. But I just don't personally understand this specific verse. Then you wouldn't find upon us any helper. Nobody can help you against us. Interesting.
وإن كادوا ليستفزونك من الأرض ليخرجوك منها وإذا لا يلبثون خلافك إلا قليلا. Okay,
again, I'm going to look at what the literal translation is and then tell you what the translation below is. The literal translation is, and indeed, or if they're about to scare you, or exhaust you, or drive you from the land, from the earth is the actual word, but earth, land is all applicable, so that they may evict you from it. So yastafizunak is like to provoke you from this earth until they evict you from it, but then they would not have stayed after you left, except for a little. After you had left. It is after you had left. I don't know why they put this. Yeah. So the explanation here that they've written below you is that if they were about to intimidate you and drive you out of the land, Mecca, but then they would not have survived after you had left. But the actual phrasing is, and if they were about to provoke you from this earth, from this land, to let you leave it, and then they would not have stayed after you except for a little. So the simplest explanation is this is talking about the time of the Prophet, and that this is about Mecca, and that if they had kicked him out of Mecca at that, because obviously he did leave Mecca in his journey, but it depends on when this verse was revealed, and if I'm understanding based off of the description, this is after he had come back from Medina to Mecca and liberated Mecca and made it free. If they had kicked you out, they provoked you to leaving it, then they wouldn't have stayed after it except for a little. But the other explanation is a bit more of an open explanation. Yeah, and I don't always bring back the concept of a coming messenger. But if that were the case, then this could also apply to them. But let's not get too complicated. All it's saying is, indeed, if they were to provoke you from the earth so they evict you from it, then they would not be able to stay except for a little. And then he gives an example of the other messengers before the time of the Prophet.
سنة من قد أرسلنا قبلك من رسلنا ولا تجد لسنتنا تحويلا.
Yeah, in this is a very powerful statement, and I'm gonna obviously share a message with someone who specifically follows the channel in a discussion that we've had. But it says sunnata, such is the way of them who we had sent from before you from messengers. So again, this is not talking about the Prophet specifically. This is talking about all the messengers. And this is why it's kind of interesting. In the next verse, it talks about this is the way from the messengers that we had sent from before you. And if you look at the Quran, there's one verse that talks about the Prophet Muhammad being a messenger of God and the seal of the prophets. He's not the seed of the messengers, which is why I believe that there's more messengers. And I believe in this is a message that applies both to the Prophet and to a future messenger. And I think this is exactly why I think this is being said, because sunnata man qad arsalna min qablika min rusulina. This is the way of those who we had sent from before you. And I do often feel like the Quran is a guidebook for messengers, which is very interesting, very specific. That if the messengers were kicked out of the land, then the people that stayed behind them are not going to stay for very long. And we see this in time again. If you look at the examples of the messengers from before the time of the Prophet, the Quran is full of these stories of the messengers coming and telling their people, hey, by the way, listen, and then they don't listen, and then the messenger leaves, and then doom comes upon where those messengers have left. But this is talking, also the terminology can explain about the present tense. It could be talking about, it could be said in the present tense, but obviously it was revealed to the Prophet, so it would have applied to the time of the Prophet 100%, but maybe it applies to post the time of the Prophet. And it says, this is the way of the messengers from before you. And then it says, وَلَا تَجِدُ لِسُنَّتِنَا تَحْوِيلًا. And you will not find for our way any alteration. Okay, I was expecting... Okay, so when I first read about this, I was thinking about the term God's plan, and that God's plan does not change. But what this is exactly saying is you will not find for our way, this is the way that it's talking about, and the way that it is saying is if they're about to kick you out of this land, then they're not going to stay in it except for a little bit. So that is the way that it's talking about. I tried to think about it from God's plan's perspective, but I think this is talking about specifically the way of messengers and the way of how it operates. Messenger comes to land, gives message. If he's frustrated and kicked out and driven out, then the people who kick him out will not stay for very long. Interesting.
أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا.
Now this is a very beautiful phrase, and it talks about how many times we should pray, and well, sort of, not really, but I'd bring it to how many times we should pray. It says, establish prayer at the decline, from the decline of the sun until the darkness of the night. So from when the sun is setting until the darkness of the night. And Qur'anan at dawn, and read Qur'an at dawn. It's now saying it's combining the two, which is kind of interesting. Observe the prayer from the decline of the sun until the darkness of the night, and the dawn prayer, but it's not what it's saying. It's not saying aqam as-salah al-fajr. It says wa Qur'an al-fajr, and the Qur'an of dawn, which of course we do recite Qur'an when we pray. But okay. All right. there's a reason why I wanted to specify this. So the big question that came up is how many times should Muslims pray? From Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, from the miracle of the travel of the Prophet from Mecca to Jerusalem and his ascension to the seven heavens and back down, which his ascension can be a vision. We understood from the Prophet that we should pray 5 times a day. When I look at the Quran for how many times we should pray, there are a couple of verses that come to mind. I didn't know this was one of them. I knew specifically Surah Hud, right? Surah Hud. We covered it. It says, وَأَقَمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيَ النَّهَارِ وَزُلْفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and establish prayer at 2 ends of the day and an approach from the night. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يَذْهَبَنَّ السَّيِّئَاتِ, and good deeds erase bad deeds. That is a reminder for those who remember. So here we are saying establish at both ends of the day and an early part of the night. So kind of it says 3 prayers. And then there's another verse in the Quran that says watch out for the middle prayer, which again, a middle prayer can work if there's 3, can also work if there's 5. And then this verse says establish prayer at from the decline of sun until the darkness of the night, and Quran al-Fajr, and reading Quran at dawn, which is very interesting. Indeed, the Quran at dawn was witnessed. Now here they're saying by angels, but there are going to be references to angels in the next couple of verses, and I don't know. We'll get into it, but it's specifically saying pray from the setting of the sun until the night, until the middle of the night, and read Quran at dawn. Indeed, reading Quran at dawn is witnessed. And the next verse, which is also beautiful and something that I'd love to do, is
وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَتَهَجَّدْ بِهِ نَافِلَةً لَكَ عَسَىٰ أَن يَبْعَثَكَ رَبُّكَ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا.
I want. It says, and from the night, fatajahad, so then arise at night, arise in the middle of the night as an additional one for you. Oh, it doesn't say for prayer. It just says arise. We understand it to be about prayer because the previous verse was about prayer. As an additional one for you, so that it may be that your Lord will raise you to a station that is praiseworthy. وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَتَجَهَّدْ بِهِ نَافِلَةً. And from the night, then arise in it. Perhaps your Lord will make you a position that is ever thanked. Which for me was very powerful, because this is also, this I would love for myself. A station that is praiseworthy. Now, let me add the caveat that this refers to the time that the Prophet will make intercession, shafa'ah, on the Day of Judgment. I don't know that this is to be true. This is, I think, drawn from hadith. And again, we're focusing specifically on what the Quran is saying. The Quran is saying, and from the night, establish for prayer, so that it may be that you will be raised by your Lord to a station that is praiseworthy. Which is something that I do want for myself. Maybe it's egotistical to want it. But to arise from your sleep and pray is, in multiple places in the Quran, stated as something that is very good for you, and that those who do it are given a special stature and given a special record. And being able to leave your bed to go pray is a sign of extreme gratitude and extreme humbleness and extreme beauty. And in it, I would love to do the same. For me, I was just very excited to hear about, and indeed, the Quran at dawn was witnessed. We like the story by angels. Oh, there's a one. This verse gives the times of the 5 daily prayers. The decline of the sun refers to the afternoon and the late afternoon prayers. The darkness of the night refers to sunset and late evening prayers, and then the dawn prayer. Which I don't necessarily agree with, because the darkness of the night refers to sunset, because when we pray Maghrib It's not the darkness of the night. The late evening prayers I'll give you. The decline of the sun refers to the afternoon and the late afternoon prayers. That I can give you, like from when the sun's at the highest point to at the sun's in the middle point. And again, it's not that the verses disagree with there being 5 prayers, and the number of prayers isn't mentioned in the Quran, but the Prophet said the number of prayers, and we follow the Prophet, and that is why we pray 5 times a day. It's just beautiful to hear that Quran at dawn was ever witnessed. I don't know, there's just something lovely about this verse. There's something lovely about reciting Quran at dawn. There's something so irreverent about it. It's so beautiful and so nice. And getting up for prayer. And this is something that I'll probably struggle with. I struggle to get out of bed in general, but like to get out in the middle of the night to pray, that's a tough one. But yeah, maybe this will make me appreciate waking up in the middle of the night and not be so aggressive at myself and then just say, hey, it's just a call from God to pray. And so that I'm going to try my best to do this moving forward, inshallah.
وقل رب أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا.
And say, my Lord, cause me to enter an entrance that is sound, or that is trustworthy, or that is honorable, and cause me to exit from an exit that is sound, that is trustworthy, that is honorable, and make for me from near you an authority that is helping. This is a prayer, right? I don't think this is the prayer specifically for the Prophet. I think we can say this, and in fact, I'm going to say this. Rabbi adkhilni mudkhala sidqin wa akhrijni mukhraja sidqin waj'al li min ladunka sultanan nasira. Yeah, I mean, if we all pray for this, we all pray. And this is like entering what, exiting what. And I feel like entering and exiting anything and everything, entering and exiting a new job, entering and exiting a new situation, a new circumstance. Like you're kind of praying, saying, let me do it in truth, in justice, in honor. And God, please help me and protect me as much as you can. It's a fair claim.
وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا.
Another beautiful statement. And it says, and say, it has come the truth, it has come the justice, and it has perished the falsehood. Yeah, so here, al-haqq wal-batil, yeah, falsehood and truth and falsehood makes sense. Indeed, falsehood was bound to vanish, bound to perish, bound to go away. And and it's kind of like, I've always kind of had this faith that it's all going to work out in the end, that everything's going to be fine, that it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I have this belief that this world is a just world. And the Quran has said multiple times, the world was created bil-haqq, which means injustice. It's the same word, but it's the same word as truth. And that وَجَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Truth has come, and perished is falsehood, and indeed falsehood was perishable. Falsehood was erased. There's just something about the goodness of these phrases. Oh, we're already at 40 minutes at the very beginning of this episode.
وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا.
And we have revealed, or we have sent down from the Quran, that which is a healing and a mercy for the believers, and it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss. And again, the Quran, and this is also why I started this episode by saying I love the Quran. It is a mercy. It is, and there is a healing from it as well. And there's things called like ruqya, for instance, reading Quran over somebody to heal them. And it has some powerful elements to it. And it is a mercy. And we're always, and that's why I said the truth is a mercy, and a constant truth is a mercy, because you can always refer back to it to see what it says and what it doesn't say. And there's just this beauty to the Quran. And it has a healing, which is very powerful. And it only increases the wrongdoers in loss. This is loss. Rest in peace, Lucas.
وَإِذَا أَنْعَمْنَا عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَعْرَضَ وَنَأَى بِجَانِبِهِ وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ كَانَ يَئُوسًا.
And here it talks about the nature of man. We see this time and time again. And if we have bestowed our favor upon man, then he turns away. If we bestow the favor upon man, then he turns away about our favor. He turns on his side, either arrogance or not being grateful or not being appreciative. And when he touches him evil, then he is in despair. They lose all hope. It talks about the ever ungrateful nature of humans, and the ever need for the power of prayer and constantly seeking mercy and alignment in God.
قُلْ كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ فَرَبُّكُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ هُوَ أَهْدَى سَبِيلًا.
I also like this phrase in general, because we've also had disagreements with friends about what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do and what should we do. It says, say, everyone works on his own manner, on their manner, but your Lord is more knowing about whom is best guided in the way. So sometimes people can say, I believe this is what you should do, and some people say, I believe this is what you should do, and I believe this is how you should think, and I believe this is how you should think. And there's always disagreements and kind of perspectives. There's a lot of ways to see it. But know that God is the one who is most knowing of who's best guided amongst us, who's rightly guided in the right way. Nobody has all the right answers. Nobody is absolutely correct. Nobody is always correct. Nobody is an authority about what is correct. And everyone's trying their best. And sometimes there are disagreements between those who are really trying to find the right path, and they just disagree. Who's to say? Is it for person A, person B, the person who studied the Quran the whole other life? You never know. Let's not get too complicated. God knows who's best, who's guided the best.
وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا.
Very interesting phrase. And they ask you about the soul. And again, here they're not saying the word prophet, but here you can specifically hear about the prophet. All right, but you can also say, if somebody asks you about the soul, you can answer with this. Say, the soul is from a command of God, and we have وَمَا أُوتِيتُمْ, and you have not been given from its knowledge except a little. Anyone can say this. If anyone's asking you about the soul, you can answer saying, the soul is a command of God, and you have not received about this in knowledge except for very little. Which is true. It's true to all of us. We don't know that much about the soul. We have a sort of pseudo understanding, but we don't really understand it. And this is also like the word soul is open, because sometimes the Quran refers to sending the angels down, God sending the angels down with soul. For instance, in Surah Al-Qadr, which is the chapter of fate, that says that we send down al-malaikata wal-ruh, the angels and the spirits down. And then there was another verse that we had covered previously in the chapter that I shared a very personal story for, about God sending the angels with ruh, with spirit, down to whomever he wills from his spirit, from his servants, from his slaves. But it can also apply to the soul within us, right? We have a soul. Our souls are connected to our bodies and our minds. Long story short, we don't know that much about souls. And that's that you know for sure.
ولئن شئنا لنذهبن بالذي أوحينا إليك ثم لا تجد لك به علينا وكيلا.
This is a scary comment, and as we understand it, yeah, it definitely applied to the Prophet, but it could apply in general. And if we had willed, then we surely would have taken that which we have revealed to you. So just as easy as we have revealed it to you, we can take it away. And then you would not find for you concerning it on against us any advocate. No one will protect you, no one will guard you against it. Which, it's trying to humanize the Prophet. And as great and as powerful as he is, everything that was given to the Prophet, everything that was revealed to him, can be taken away. And it's not because of him; it's because of God, and He is the mechanism in which we learn and we need. And we owe Him a great deal of thanks. But the primary understanding is that it is from God through the messenger, and we must always thank God. We can also thank the messenger. But it just as easy as it has been given to the messenger, it could have been taken away, and nobody can stop God or the God from taking it away. But why did it stay?
إلا رحمة من ربك إن فضله كان عليك كبيرا.
Yeah, and again it says, it is except for a mercy from your Lord, and indeed His preference upon you is large. So His favor upon you is large. His bounty, sure, but His favor upon you is immense. And while the Quran is saying that everything's from God, it is also saying that the Prophet was blessed and was favored. And it's a beautiful statement.
قل لئن اجتمعت الإنس والجن على أن يأتوا بمثل هذا القرآن لا يأتون بمثله ولو كان بعضهم لبعض ظهيرا.
Say that if it had gathered all mankind and all the jinn, so that they were to bring the like of this Quran, that they would not be able to bring anything like it, even if some of them were to others' assistance. Even if they were to support each other, even if they were to get together, even if they were to sit and plan, they're not able to produce anything like this Quran. And that, you could say that again. The Quran is absolutely miraculous and amazing and fantastic. And it's been around for 1,450 years. And there's anything that I have seen that stands the test of time as well as the Quran. And the Quran has a lot of statements about the universe and about science that the Quran has said a lot of things, and then science eventually figures it out. Again, we're not saying that if you have to be a believer, you have to be not scientific. That's not at all. Even though I said that something like the sorts a couple episodes ago. Science, in fact, proves a lot of what the Quran is saying. And there's something miraculous about this book. But it also has a different effect on believers versus non-believers. It seems to fill the believers with hope, inspiration, and guidance, and the non-believers are repelled by it. It's such a weird and interesting concept.
ولقد صرفنا للناس في هذا القرآن من كل مثل فأبى أكثر الناس إلا كفورا.
And certainly we have explained for humans in this Quran from every example, but most mankind refused. فأبى أكثر الناس إلا كفورا. And most people refuse most people accept disbelief, which means they rejected what was given to them and they accepted disbelief. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. The Quran has an effect, two different types of effects on people. So for the believers, it fills them with joy, happiness, consistency, and calmness, and peace, and mercy and healing. And the list goes on. And for the disbelievers, they go, ooh, no. It's very interesting.
وقالوا لن نؤمن لك حتى تفجر لنا من الأرض ينبوعا.
And we see this time and time again, specifically when it comes to the Prophet. They say, we will never believe in you until you cause to gush for us from the earth a spring. They're essentially asking for a miracle. And I've been thinking about this concept of what is the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad. As far as I can tell, he had but one miracle, the Quran. It came through him. In the beginning of this verse, it talked about Al-Isra, the travel from Mecca to Jerusalem, was something that God had done. And of course, all miracles are what God has done. But it didn't say like the Prophet flew because God enabled him to. It said, we took the Prophet from Mecca to Jerusalem. It didn't use those words, but that's kind of, so it kind of, I stand by the belief and the understanding that the Quran is the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad, and I as far as I can understand, the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad. But maybe I don't understand miracles, so what we're saying. But most people that were around the time of the Prophet were like, hey, show us the miracle. Cause water to gush from the earth. And this is also a reference to Moses. Moses striked the rock, and the 12 tribes of Israel got 12 springs of water. So this is a reference to that specific miracle. And essentially the people are asking, show us that miracle. If you're a prophet, where's your miracle?
أو تكون لك جنة من نخيل وعنب فتفجر الأنهار خلالها تفجيرا.
Or that it is for you a garden of date palms or grapes, so you cause rivers to gush forth within them abundantly. And again, it's asking for a miracle, but in a different form. I don't know why they're asking for water gushing forth twice. But it's very interesting. And then they're asking for another thing as well.
أو تسقط السماء كما زعمت علينا كسفا أو تأتي بالله والملائكة قبيلا.
Or you cause the sky to fall as you have claimed. And again, there are examples of the Quran of like stones falling from the sky, cities being turned upside down, or upon us in pieces, or you bring to us by God, or do you bring to us God? You show us God. Where is this God that you speak of? Show us God. Or the angels, where they are before us. Bring them before us. Where's God? Where's the angels? Show us. You got to show us first to believe. And the lesson in the Quran time and time again is that even if they see, they're not going to believe.
أو يكون لك بيت من زخرف أو ترقى في السماء ولن نؤمن لرقيك حتى تنزل علينا كتابا نقرأه قل سبحان ربي هل كنت إلا بشرا رسولا.
There's a beautiful, humble statement there in it as well. Or it is for you to be a house made of gold. Yeah, zukhruf is ornament, something that is pretty. Or that you ascend into the sky. And we will never believe in your ascension. And here, we will never believe in your ascension until you bring down upon us a book that we could read. Okay, so at the beginning of this episode, I was saying that I was going to talk about his vision. And I was talking about his ascension. And that it was a spiritual ascension, not necessarily a physical ascension. But I don't have any knowledge in that, so I'm not going to talk about it. But essentially, what this verse is saying is that they will not believe in his ascension to the heavens unless he brings a book from the heavens. Can you bring a physical object? Which then reminds me of the the Book of Mormon, which like the Book of Mormon is like as if there were golden plates. I don't know what his name was. I'm not gonna remember his name. That he found golden plates, but the only way he could read them is by putting his head in a hat where there was a rock, and he was not looking at the plates, but he could translate it from the rock. So the people are asking for the golden plates in a sense, and yeah, this is also this is why Mormons say, "Oh, that's why we know it's true because there were the golden plates," and you're like, bro. I find the Quran to be much more valuable than golden plates or a book or a physical book or something that you can kind of read. But essentially, this is just talking about why they're disbelieving the Prophet. That, you know, show us that you ascended and you came back down. Bring us a book, and then the response that the Prophet says is, say, glorified is my God, subhanallah, like glory be to God. Was I nothing but a human messenger? Glory be to God, am I not only a human messenger? Like he's saying, like, all I am is a human messenger. I can't do any of these things. I can't produce any of these miracles because also God didn't intend to. But I can't show you. I am only human. And there's something beautifully humble about that phrase.
وما منع الناس أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى إلا أن قالوا أبعث الله بشرا رسولا.
And what has prevented humans from believing if it came to them the guidance, except that they were to say, has God sent us a human messenger? A human as a messenger? Yeah. And I think this is kind of like the overall lesson of it all, is that guidance comes to all of us. Some of us accept it and believe in it, and some of us don't accept it and believe in it. And the Quran here is saying that the people that don't accept it and believe it, they say, did we get a human messenger? Is that really why we're not going to believe it because of the human messenger? Which is a ad hominem fallacy, which let's not get into logic, but essentially they're attacking the person giving the message rather than talking about the message itself. And I feel like a lot of the people talk about religion being brainwashing. And if anything, religion and the Quran is saying the most critical thing that you can have with regards to belief or disbelief is your approach to what is being presented. Do you believe in it or do you not? The choice is yours. And you should take this with everything that you see and with everything that you deal with. For me, that's a statement of critical thinking, critical judgment. Always be critical of whatever you're brought into you. And if you believe it to be guidance, then take it on. It doesn't matter who's bringing it. And if you believe it to be misguidance, don't take it on. Use your own judgment. Don't focus on the messenger, but focus on the message, you know?
قل لو كان في الأرض ملائكة يمشون مطمئنين لنزلنا عليهم من السماء ملكا رسولا.
Okay, and this says something very interesting. Say, if there had been in the earth angels, walking securely, then we would have sent down onto them from the heaven an angel that is a messenger. Oh, I thought this was going to say something. I completely understood a different thing the first time I read it than the second time. This is why it's important to kind of take it step by step and read it. Because I read it quickly the first time. I didn't quite understand it. It's saying, if there were angels on the earth, then they would send down an angel. So the whole point of the messenger being a human is because we're human. the message has to come from your kind. So specifically that he's a human is exactly why you should believe him, is what this is saying.
قل كفى بالله شهيدا بيني وبينكم إنه كان بعباده خبيرا بصيرا.
Yeah, and this has a beautiful statement. Say, and again, yeah, we can all say this. Sufficient is God as a witness between me and between you. Yeah, it applies to the prophet, but it also can apply to us. God's a sufficient witness between me and you. And indeed he is over his slaves, over his servants, over his worshippers, but I like the word slaves, all aware and all seeing. He sees us all. He knows what's happening with all of us. And God is sufficient between us all.
ومن يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد لهم أولياء من دونه ونحشرهم يوم القيامة على وجوههم عميا وبكما وصما مأواهم جهنم كلما خبت زدناهم سعيرا.
And this is a lesson that we have learned time and time again, but it bears repeating. And whoever God guides, then he is the guided one. And whoever he lets go astray, then you will not find for them any protectors from besides him. And we will gather them. I'm very curious to me what it will mean to gather. I like the bottleneck example that Safa said. We'll gather them on the day of resurrection on their faces, and on their faces they're blind, they're dumb, and they're deaf. Blind, dumb, and deaf. The trifecta. And their abode is hell. Every time كلما خبت زدناهم سعيرا. Oh, and their abode is hell. Whenever it subsides, whenever hell calms down, we'll increase for them the blazing fire. It's a sauna, y'all. So you're in hell. Just when you think it's starting to cool down. Nope. Increase the heat. Jeez. Yeah. Terrible, terrible thing. Whoever God guides is guided. Whoever doesn't get guided isn't for them. We will drag them on their faces on the day of judgment. Deaf, dumb, and blind. So there is that kind of the blind again, the blind concept that we had at the beginning of the verses. And here I think it means literally deaf, dumb, and blind. I don't know. Either way, you don't want to be misguided. You don't want to be a non-believer. And the last verse for today.
ذلك جزاؤهم بأنهم كفروا بآياتنا وقالوا أإذا كنا عظاما ورفاتا أإنا لمبعوثون خلقا جديدا.
That is the recompense because they disbelieved in our verses, and they said, and they also said that if we were bones and dust, will we be resurrected as a creation that is new? I feel like I want to say this just because that's how I say it. Why does it feel? This feels personal. This feels like God specifically didn't like this thing that they said. Oh, if we're bones and dust, then we won't be sent again. Like. It's repeated multiple times in the Quran. Disbelieving in our verses, sure. But it's just this specific part. They believe if we're bone and dust, will we be raised again? Why is that such a point of repetition? Is very curious for me to know. Cool. We have one more section to go because it finishes at 111 and we're doing 99. So tomorrow is the last section. We're doing exactly a chapter a week at this rate, but I'm guessing that the later chapters are going to be shorter, maybe longer. Ooh, we have Al-Kahf next, the cave. Exciting. I've read it before, but I would love to read it again. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you. We always end with صدق الله العلي العظيم. And yeah, I love you, appreciate you. See you guys tomorrow. مع السلامة. Bye.